Who knows? Thank you.
Who knows?
Everlong by Foo Fighters, right?
Yeah. The
Are they
Fighters
Foo
of
Fighters?
Foo.
They're not the Foo Fighters. They're Foo Fighters.
It's Foo Fighters. I mean, it's also Pixies.
It is Pixie.
Um, it's also there's a lot of bands like that. Gorillas. There's a lot of bands that people throw a "the" in front of their name, but it's not really there.
I can't think of any. Talking Heads. Yeah. Um, there is a band called The.
That's right. Yeah. I have a few of the songs on some playlists.
You wouldn't say the. You might. All right. Speaking of fun names for bands, my fifth and final pick is by a band you know, Greg Knight, because you have chosen one of their songs in a previous podcast episode. Um, it's a song called. Wait a minute. Before I say this, I just want to say two things. I'm surprised you did not pick the song by Iris Dement that is used at the beginning of The Leftovers, Let the Mystery Be. You've been
Yeah.
talking about this all the way through. It was one of my finalists. And I thought, well, Greg's going to pick that because he loved that show so much. And nope.
No, no. Although I do like that show and I do like that song, but no,
Okay. All right.
didn't
Um,
make it.
the, the second thing is also relating to you. Um, a song I would have picked, but it's not on Spotify in the version I want. I think I told you this is a song by your band Pearl Jam. It's actually by Eddie Vedder. Wait, I think it maybe is originally by Pearl Jam. It's called The Long Road. But
Okay.
the version I love is on the Dead Man Walking soundtrack. And it's the last song on the CD, and it's called The Long Road. And it's Eddie Vedder and the singer Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, who I don't know anything about except he's got this wailing, gorgeous, poignant, sad voice. There's not even words he's saying. It's just like wailing, but it's so spine tingling. And it's basically that would have been my number one pick. But it's not on Spotify, and I know that we like to do the playlist, so I left it off. Um, so yeah, but that's not it. So my last pick, it's not my number one pick or anything, but it's by the Flaming Lips, and it's called "Do You Realize?"
Oh yeah.
And I remember reading somewhere that it became a popular song at funerals, actually, and they heard about that, and the lead singer, whose name I forget, Wayne something or other, Wayne Coyne, something like that. That feels like a made up word. Wang Chung? Yeah, Wayne Coyne. Look at that.
Yeah.
I don't
Good
even
for
know how
you.
I know
That's
that.
cool.
Good
Yeah.
Lord. So Wayne Coyne, when he heard that this was being used at memorial services a lot, I don't know how they just played it on the boombox or whatever. He thought, oh wow, I didn't realize, but do you realize? Uh, it's right there. So I'm gonna read you the lyrics. It's not that long, and he does them twice, I guess. Do you realize that you have the most beautiful face? Do you realize we're floating in space? Do you realize that happiness makes you cry? Do you realize that everyone you know someday will die? And instead of saying all of your goodbyes, let them know you realize that life goes fast. It's hard to make the good things last. You realize the sun doesn't go down. It's just an illusion caused by the world spinning round. And to my mind, those last two lines are like they encapsulate life and death.
Mm.
We think of life as like it's just the end. The sun is going down and it will never rise again. No, that's an illusion. We keep spinning and the sun comes back up in about 9 hours or whatever. And so accept that and, you know, say all your goodbyes, I guess, if you want to. He doesn't say this, but I'm saying it. But realize that there's happiness that makes you cry, that we're floating in space, that you have the most beautiful face. It's just beautiful. It's just poignant. I don't know what his intentions were in the song, but I think it's just gorgeous. And, realize that the sun doesn't go down, life goes on, or you're part of a cycle. of sunrise and sunset and sunrise again. Um, and it's okay. It's okay. And I love that he ends on the last thing he says, do you realize that you have the most beautiful face? Do you realize? And like life is beautiful. And I would want that at my funeral. In my mix, my CD mix. So, do you realize by the Flaming Lips, I think is a perfect song.
Yeah, and we'll have played a clip from that song, so people will know this when I say it, but it has this very orchestral kind of feel to it too. It's like very dynamic sound to the song. Where I first encountered it, I think was I think it was a promo that HBO would run on their channel.
Mhm.
Um this must have been back in the day. I think it was like when The Sopranos and 6 Feet Under and all of that stuff were on. But yeah, they would play Do You Realize, and they would show clips from like all these shows sort of in the background.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's really pretty. And so now, but you know how you just transfer things in your mind, and so now every time I hear Do You Realize, I think of HBO. I can't think of
Oh
anything else.
no. Oh dear. That's something. Uh well, so the album that it's off of, Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, is from 2002. So that might
Okay.
be in keeping with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Uh, that's funny. Yeah, I'm not going to remember that image at all. I'm going to keep thinking of this as a poignant, beautiful funeral song.
Oh.
Uh, and HBO. No. All
I
right.
I do love that there is something evocative too about that. Do you realize that you have the most beautiful face? Do you realize that we're floating in space? It reminds me of I think it's Carl Sagan, right? That was on Cosmos.
Yeah.
And he has the poem about the blue dot, which when they were filming Cosmos, they had sent the Voyager out, and it was heading into deep space, and before it left, um, they turned it around and turned it back to Earth. And so you got to see Earth sort of move away as the Voyager sort of went off into the distance, and the Earth would get smaller and smaller. And Sagan was like, everybody that you have ever known, everybody who's ever lived, everybody who will ever live, they all live on that little dot that's just out there in the middle of like all this blackness, right?
Right.
And it's, I mean, it's beautiful. Yeah, that it's important to sort of take stock. Do you realize, you know
Yeah.
yeah.
That's exactly right. I mean, what you just said about Sagan is what I was going to kind of end my little spiel with, and that is that I think the song, and maybe a lot of these songs we've talked about, it's really about recognize the beauty in what is now, but also know that there's a real fragility, a real vulnerability to our lives. We're floating in space. Sometimes happiness makes you cry because it's so beautiful, that almost you acknowledge that it can't last.
Mhm.
That same, like, the if we were vampires, the poignancy is that it won't last forever. If we did live forever, nothing would matter,
Yeah.
but we don't, and so everything does, you know?